Everyone's talking about AI these days, right? This season on Compiler, we're diving deep into how AI is reshaping the world we live in. Join us for a new season of Compiler, an original podcast from Red Hat. Subscribe now, wherever you get your podcasts.
One of the hardest parts of getting older is feeling like something's off in your body, but not knowing exactly what. It's not just aging, it's often your hormones too. When they fall out of balance, everything feels off. But here's the good news. This doesn't have to be the story of your next chapter. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is an herbal formula made with science-backed ingredients designed to fine-tune your hormones by balancing estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol. It helps with common issues such as hot flashes, poor sleep, low energy, bloating, and more. With over 40,000 reviews and a bottle sold every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. A survey found 86% of women lost weight, 77% saw an improved mood, and 100% felt like themselves again. Start your next chapter feeling balanced and in control. For a limited time, get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com with code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
This is episode 300 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abu-Al-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
And I'm Nicole Wakeland. I'm going to mention a new thing. I have another podcast I'm doing called The Road Reflected. It's myself and my hubby and random guests. So second podcast out there.
Excellent.
Yeah, not as cool as this one, obviously. This is,
well, yeah.
You know.
And I'm Roberto Baldwin, back from Europe. I don't know. Where am I from? Let's think. I feel like I should have a podcast.
You know, now you're going to get emails complaining about why it takes you so long to figure out where you're from.
Robbie, don't be a braggart. Just figure it out. Say where you're from. Come up with
let's just say Engadget. Engadget's good to me.
Okay.
They're good people.
Yeah, we're all back. Last week we had a collection of the interviews that we did at the New York Auto Show while at least two of the three of us were vacationing. Robbie and his wife were in Europe. I was in Hawaii with my wife. Nicole was actually in Hawaii for a couple of days, but then went home because she didn't see fit to take her husband with her.
I know.
Oh, that's messed up.
I caught so much flack. Like randomly, I said to Russ, I'm like, oh, well, Sam and his wife. He's like, wait, I'm sorry, what? Sam and his wife? I'm like, Sam's wife is here. Oh, crud. Like I knew.
Really? This is after he just came in and helped you with your podcast hardware.
What he doesn't know won't hurt you, I guess, is the way it goes, right?
Yes. I was like, well, next time, gosh, okay, I'll make sure I bring you, buddy.
So anyway, we're all back together and we've got stuff to talk about. We've been driving lots of stuff and there's some interesting news this week. And we got a bunch of listener questions to answer later. So let's start with Robbie this time.
Hi.
Nicole is still chewing her bagel.
She had a delicious bagel that's toasted, and if she doesn't chew it, it'll go cold.
Yeah.
I drove a few weeks back. I drove the 2022 Ford Expedition. I think we all know what the Expedition is. Big, giant, 3-row SUV that you can shove all your friends into if you have, so many friends. If you have 6 friends. And so I drove that. And okay, so here's the deal. As what it is, at the base of what it is, as the Ford Expedition, a very large vehicle with a lot of room to put a lot of people or a lot of stuff, it's fine. It's great. It does what it's supposed to do. That's what it is. Then you get to the technology that Ford has put into it. And I feel like Ford has just sort of like half-assed the stuff they put in there. Like the infotainment system was it's the same like big screen that we're seeing in the Mach-E and all, the current that that's sort of rolling out into the Ford lineup, and it felt slower. And then the driver's assistance was just herky jerky. That's the word I'm saying. I'm coming up. It was just like slamming on the gas, cramming on the brakes. It was just, I was like, what is going on? Especially after you drive like the Mach-E or the Ford F-150 or the F-150 Lightning, where it feels, you're like, okay, this is, they're getting it. They're getting closer to Super Cruise. They're getting up there with their hands-free system. And this vehicle, it just feels like it's all the tech that you expect in there, but none of the groundwork done for it. It's just like, you know what? We know why you want the Ford Expedition. You got a lot of friends. You got a lot of kids. You got a lot of crap. You need to get it from point A to point B. We're going to give you that. And then we're going to give you the new tech, but it's not going to be as nice or as polished as what we have in some of the other vehicles. And it just sort of it sort of bugged me like a lot. And I drove it up to Yosemite. My band had a show, so I ended up getting this giant vehicle, so there was a ton of room. I was able to get like we had a PA system I had to put in there. I had guitars, I had amps, I had like mic stand, like all, drum stuff, percussion stuff, all that fit in there. No problem. Plus our stuff. Drove it up there. No problem. Drives nice. Comfortable for a nice long drive. But the whole time I'm just like, why? Just this. Okay. So the base price for this thing is $67,345. The one I had was $83,000. It was the limited. It has a 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6. It was in this like red color, and I was like, for all this money, just pay the extra $200 for the better, for something to make it work better. And so I don't know. And the fuel thing, the fuel economy on this thing is it's not great. 16 city, 22 highway, combined is 18. I got it in eco mode. I drove that thing in eco mode the whole time. I do have to go uphill and downhill, so it's not just a regular. But I got to 17, and I was really like, ooh. At one point, I got to 20, and I was like, yeah. I felt like a superhero. Is that when you were downhill
with a tailwind?
Yeah. And so, the folks that are going to buy the Expedition, they're going to buy the Expedition. I think it's, it's a legacy vehicle. It's something like, well, I had an Expedition, now I want to get another Expedition. And, I want a big vehicle. I have to haul a lot of people or things, and that's fine. It's just, this is a 2022. So hopefully, I don't know why they had the 2022 in the fleet, but that's what I got. But hopefully the next refresh, or maybe a little silent refresh, they'll sort of tweak the technology a little bit, just a little, just get rid of some of that latency, fix the adaptive cruise control. For the love of God, please fix the adaptive cruise control. It was not good. It was just like, wow, this is so like for years, like 3 years ago, like Hyundai's adaptive cruise control was just it wasn't so great. It was very sort of herky jerky, and I'm like, okay, and they've worked on it, they've gotten better, and with the Ioniq 6 it's outstanding. They did such a great job with their next version of their driver's assistance suite. But the Ford Expedition, is it the weight? Is it just like, okay, there's just too much weight I have to fight with in order to drive this vehicle smoothly? I don't know, but if you're down with the Ford Expedition, you're probably going to be fine with it. Just know that you're just going to be like kind of sloshing back and forth in your seat like David Byrne, going forward and back. Before we move on to the next chart, so okay, I'm going to let you guys pick the destination fee on this this mega big car.
I'm going to say $1,695.
I'm going to say 16.
It's $1,695 on the dot.
Oh,
love. Okay.
I was like, well, is Sam cheating?
No, because I had one a few months back, or maybe a year ago, and I recalled that it was 1,600 or 1,695.
You remember that it was a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
To move it from down the street from your house.
Well, actually, the Expedition would come from Louisville.
Then it's all okay.
Yeah.
Even if it was down the street, it wouldn't matter.
But like an F-150 built in Dearborn, which is like 25 miles from me, would also cost the same amount.
Yeah,
So-
see,
It's a rigorous 25 miles. Sam.
yeah, it's a rigorous. They
It's
just
a
drive
heavy
it.
vehicle, you know.
They drive it as the crow flies, so they're just driving through houses.
You have no idea.
It's a lot.
Well,
So, yeah.
Actually, I think they take them to a staging yard in Kansas and collect them all there, and then distribute them onto the trucks and trains. You know, so they'll put an Expedition and an F-150 and a Focus and an Escape on a truck that's going to one particular dealer. So they all have to go to Kansas first, and then they get distributed to all over the country.
They all have to go to Kansas first. That's a horrible.
That's the most sophisticated deal.
the worst Get Up Kids song title. They all have to go to Kansas first. For all my Get Up Kid fans out there, I guess it's just me probably. So the next car I drove was the 2023 BMW i7. This was the XDrive60 with the 21-inch wheels. It's quite the opposite of the Ford Expedition when it comes to tech. This has all the tech, and all the tech works well. This is BMW's electric answer to the EQS and the Lucid Air. This is their fancy luxury vehicle, and I'm just going to say they sort of hit it out of the park with this thing. It drives so nice for a large vehicle. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's got the one big problem with this car is that it has this giant 31.3-inch like screen that comes down in the back, so the people in the back seat can like watch a movie. It uses it's a Fire TV, or you can plug in HDMI, and it comes down, and now the driver can't see.
Oh, geez.
They don't have a rear view camera. No,
they don't have the digital mirror system.
They don't have a digital mirror. I mean, you can see out the side windows, which legally that's all you really need is the side windows. That's why vans can drive around everywhere.
Like a weird choice. I mean, given that it's not a $5 car, to be like, we're gonna save a buck by not giving you a digital view.
Right?
Well,
it's such a weird thing to forget to do.
Yeah, and to be fair, since they launched it late last year, BMW has said, yeah, we will be adding a digital mirror system to the car for sometime in 2023.
Yeah. So if you want this, just
should have been there to begin with. But.
Yeah, exactly. We put all these things. It has this lounge seat, which is very comfortable, which I used a lot. I did a video for Engadget for this vehicle. It drives really nice. I had some of the places where I have to go to like shoot video. There's like big dips. And like it has, you could raise it up, so I wasn't worried about like messing up the vehicle. Like everything about this car that is really well thought out, except for that rear camera, the rear view camera. And yeah, no, I really liked it a lot. And so yeah, if you're looking, and it starts at $119,300, so it's not cheap. It's but if you're looking at that, that EQS, or you're looking at that Lucid Air, this is definitely something you should also be looking at. Especially if you're looking at the EQS, because I think I like the EQS. I liked it more when it was the only, luxury EV. Really, I mean, there was that and the Model S, which is luxury adjacent as far as
It's luxury priced, if not necessarily.
It's luxury priced.
Luxury interior.
Yes. It had its time. They sold a lot of them. It was the only one. Good for them. It changed everything. But yeah, everyone else has definitely caught up and surpassed it with everything. And so if you're looking at those, I mean, the EQS, this is the promise of the S Class is that you have a really nice rear seat for your passenger. You're going to pick your executive up, and the EQS doesn't deliver on that if that person's a basketball player or just tall. It just doesn't have the headroom in the back that it should have for an S Class. The Lucid Air has it, which is nice. And then you have BMW, who's like, we're just going to take our 7 Series and just electrify it, which is something they talked about like 5-10 years ago, modular, factory where they could build any type of powertrain into their vehicle. And they did it, and they did it in a way that actually is still, even with their, their rare magnet-less motors, which everyone else thinks, they're not very efficient. They're doing it, and they're doing it in a way.
They're actually as efficient, if not more so, than pretty much anybody in the similar segments.
Exactly. They're doing so that everyone else that said couldn't be done. And this vehicle, it has a range of 308 miles according to the EPA. In my test, 333.
Wow.
For that big vehicle, I did the 70 mile an hour driving, for 50 miles on the freeway, and then driving back through, back roads and in the suburbs. And same test I give every vehicle, and it surpassed it like by a lot. And so no, it's more efficient than you think it is. It's very big, but it has I think 3.5 degrees of rear steering, which isn't as nice as the 10 degrees of the EQS, but still nice to have that. The interior is really nice. It has this weird, like, sort of crystal line that goes from the driver's side across the dash to the other side, and has, the ambient light, so it changes colors. We've seen that from Mercedes for years, so they have this, but they have it in a sort of different way. And really, the only thing I think that turned people off is the exterior design, which is, I called it, I like it because it looks like Batman the Animated Series. And then I decided that the car is Catwoman's car because it has little cat eyes. So if you want Catwoman's really fancy.
I was like looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I see both of those things. Okay.
Yeah. If you really want Catwoman's fancy car, this is the one to get. Yeah, no, I cannot say enough nice things except for that rear. Not be able. My wife. Well, we ended up driving. This is the car we drove to the airport to go to Europe, and my wife hadn't been in the car yet, and so I'm like, "Oh, look, you push these buttons, and then this happens." She's like, "Oh, cool." She was doing stuff for Instagram, and at one point I'm like, "Okay, can you put the rear, like, can you put the monitor back up, please, so I can see what's going on behind me?" Which, again, legally, all I need is those side mirrors, but I feel better with that other mirror.
It's just, you want to be able to look to the side, but I mean, I think just glance up and get that view right behind you.
Yeah. And I just look up and it's just black. I'm like, oh, well, there's the back of a monitor.
Well, think of it this way. It's more like, you are the chauffeur in this car.
You are the chauffeur.
And in many cases, in a chauffeur-driven vehicle, there is a partition there anyway, to give the passengers some privacy, so that the chauffeur is not listening in, and the passengers can do in the back can do whatever they like, and the chauffeur can focus on driving. So in that situation, the chauffeur in many cases can't see back anyway. So it's just like that. And then people don't want me yammering on while I'm driving around. So yeah. If you do want that fancy rear seat and theater, it's an additional $7,500. So it is a very nice.
No, $250. Sorry, $7,250. It's not cheap, but it's also a car that's starting price $119,300. So it's a lot of money. So the vehicle, the version I drove, all said and done with all the little party packages, and was $156,595. So. Yeah. I mean, if you're not fancy, if you don't have fancy friends, you can just get it without the rear lounge seat, and you can get it without the,
save a few bucks.
Yeah, save a few bucks.
Okay, so you've got Lucid Air, you got the i7, you got the EQS, and the Model S. Of the three, the Lucid and the Mercedes, what would be your choice? The BMW?
Oh, man. See, that's a tough one because I like the way that the Lucid drives, and I like the sort of nothing that's going in, the minimalism.
I like the Lucid. I'm with Robbie. The Lucid, there's something, the way it drives and the design of it is just so clean and just aesthetically just so appealing. And that's a large part of a luxury car,
Yeah.
It's feeling, and man,
it's such a close race though between those two. It's like on certain days I would really love the Lucid, but on other days I'd really love the BMW.
What you're saying is you need one of each. Cool.
So yeah. So what I need to do is get a CEO position where one, I have both. So each day, but I think the Lucid sort of just edges. I mean, the efficiency that they've just on the nerd level, the efficiency of the Lucid is outstanding, and the fact that the motor's like 100, the motor and the driving and everything are like 156 pounds or something, and like you could pick it up if you wanted to. I think it's really really close, but I think the Lucid just beats it out, and again it's all down to that sort of that minimalism that I really like, and that's just the exterior design. I like it a lot more than I like the BMW, even though. And there's a lot more room in the you got the front and the back.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, the Lucid, being designed as an EV from the ground up, like the Tesla, its packaging is actually a lot better.
Oh yeah,
than the BMW. I agree that the i7 is a lovely car to drive, but for a car that size, it doesn't have a whole lot of trunk space.
Yeah,
and there's no storage in the front. Because of the fact that it is that modular, that flexible platform that they use.
Yeah.
So it's the same platform that they utilize for the gas and the plug-in hybrid versions of the 7 Series. And so BMW has opted not to put any sort or have any sort of front storage available, which particularly in the i7, because it doesn't have a huge trunk. I think would have been better. In the i4, the i4 is a hatchback, and you can fold the back seats down, and you actually have quite a bit of cargo space in the back, even with the back seats up. And the iX, similar, because it's a wagonish shape. You've got a decent amount of space back there, so you can make the argument that you don't really need that front storage. But in the 7, I think it's a little harder to make that argument.
Yeah, I did drive the gas version of the i7. I drove the 760 a few weeks ago. Time doesn't make any sense to me right now. The 760i X drive. And this is the gas version, and the electric version of all of BMW, it's like the Ford F-150 Lightning. That's the best F-150, just hands down. It's the same thing with BMW is doing. Like the best version of that vehicle is the electric version. The i4, the i7, like both of those, they're the best version of that series of BMW. So so if you're looking at if you're like a big BMW person, you're not going to be disappointed at all. If you're like, well, I don't know about EVs. If you're definitely looking at the EQS and the Lucid Air, you should definitely drive all three. I think you might be in the same boat that I am, where you're just like, what are the things that you like? That's what's going to push you into buying one or the other.
Not like a bad or good. It's just like, I like chocolate, you like vanilla, you pick the one you like.
And this is why we have choices.
Yay for choices. And both of those, BMW with that motor, and Lucid with their entire packaging, like the efficiency from both of these companies is outstanding. That's a huge thing that I think we talk enough about in general when it comes to EVs, is the efficiency of what they're doing, as opposed to just throw a motor in, throw the biggest battery we can find, and just hope for the best.
Excellent. Nicole.
Yes.
What have you been in?
I had several very fancy vehicles. I guess this is fancy vehicle week, because we're like,
at least for you two.
At least for us.
Wait till we get to mine.
Oh.
What are you doing here? Okay, I just looked at the list and like, wait a minute, what's happened? Oh my gosh, how gauche. Anyway, so the first vehicle I had is the Mercedes-AMG G63. I had a G-Wagon. G-Wagons are cool.
G-Wagons are cool, and I still haven't driven one. And every time I tell Mercedes that, they're like, "What?"
Well,
they've driven everything, and they're like, "We're going to get you a G-Wagon," and I just never follow up.
This was a short-term loan. It was a short loan. I worked with somebody else to make sure that I had it for a couple of days, because I'd never been in one. I'd been in one for like literally half an hour. So I thought I would actually drive one around. So the funny thing is, if you want to fly under the radar and be really like quiet and subdued and reserved, and
the G-Wagon is the vehicle for you in that case.
It's the vehicle for you. Nobody waves at you at stoplights and gives you thumbs up, or like flailing their hands like, nice car. That never happens in this car, not at all.
Especially if you get the AMG, right?
Yes, and this was I had the color, and now I can. It was like it's like ocean sea blue metallic. It was in this blue. This is brilliant, beautiful blue. Guess how much the paint was? Just the paint.
4,000.
You're not $6,500.
Yeah, man.
And I looked, and I'm like, who would pay that? And I'm like, Nicole, it's a $200,000 car. They don't care.
Yeah.
It was worth it. It was absolutely gorgeous. So, $200,000. This is really like rarefied air here. This is expensive stuff. And it has unbelievable power. There's a 4-liter twin turbo V8. It's got 577 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. So it kind of moves. It has a little bit of I found it. South Sea Blue Metallic is the official color of the $6,500 paint.
Oh,
very fancy. So it has all the power in the world. I mean, you mash on that gas pedal and that thing is going to go. The only thing you had your one dislike, Robbie, of your vehicle. What I don't like, it is loud on the highway, like a highway driving. If you're driving around town, I don't mean the delicious sound of the engine and the exhaust, which are fabulous. And they can make all the noise they want in a car like this. It's a toaster. It's shaped like a box.
Yeah, it's just a box.
So you get a little wind noise?
Wind noise is insane, which to me is a very not luxury car thing. Like part of what makes a luxury car, there's a lot of pieces. One of those pieces is it should feel like you're sort of ensconced in a little cocoon and the hoi polloi are kept outside of the car. And you're not being this made it feel like you weren't so much in a cocoon. That was that.
It's louder than the Defender.
It's louder than the Defender by far.
Okay, there you go. Because I think that's its like closest. Like
I would say I don't remember the Defender. I don't either.
I remember the Defender just being like nice. Yeah,
I don't remember thinking, man, this is noisy at highway speeds. With this one, I was like, oh wow, this, and like the couple of times that I took it on a little bit longer of a highway drive, I'm like, nope, this. There's a lot of wind noise in this. But okay, I feel like you have a $200,000 Mercedes. This might be one of your cars. Pick a different one. Pick the Lucid when you go for a drive on the highway. So it's this beautiful car. It's the interior. Good gravy. This had the G manufacture. Is it still manufacture if they spell it like German? It's not. It's FAKTUR manufacture package. Manufacturer package. So it gets like this Napa leather dash, and there's diamond stitching in the leather on the seats, and there's like a little metal AMG badge and AMG floor mats, and everything's heated and cooled and massaged. And oh my gosh, the thing is just loaded. I mean, it is, if you want a great big SUV but I feel like you're not buying this. Like Robbie, you had an Expedition that was big and it's like useful, right?
Yeah,
like
it's a big utility is what the Expedition is.
You're getting that because you have a big family or lots of people, you have lots of cargo, you want to tow things, like you're doing stuff that requires you to have that much room for people and cargo. That's not at all why you buy this.
This is just to be a show off.
This is to be a show off. And I don't even mean that as a criticism of people that buy it. Like you just buy this because you want to be like, look what I can buy. I like it. I want it. I bought it. And you just buy it because you can, because it makes you feel good. And it says something. That is the impression you want to give to everybody that sees you on the road. You want everyone to know. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. It's just,
you could do the Rubicon Trail, but you're never going to. Exactly. Like it's so incredibly capable, but you're never going to get this thing dirty if you can help it.
You could go on the Rubicon if you wanted, but I like if anybody's ever out there and finds a G-Wagon, like take a picture because I'd be like, wow. Go, you're the one. You are the one person who actually decided to use the capability this vehicle has.
I would guess so particularly on the AMG, that it's probably not going to have the kind of tires that you would need on the Rubicon Trail.
Okay, I'm looking at the world's smallest Monroney, and I can't remember what tire size I had, Sam, to be honest. Probably not. I would not imagine that it came with burly off-road.
I suspect. Well, I mean, that looks like they've at least got some sidewall. I'm looking at it on the Mercedes site now. So
there you go. It's got some sidewall. It's not. Yeah. Someone's going to take that in and they're going to change it. They're going to buy new wheels and they're going to.
It would at least survive an Ypsilanti pothole, probably.
Yeah,
survive an Ypsilanti pothole. But if you took it off road, you would scratch the South Sea Blue metallic.
Yeah,
scratch the South Sea Blue metallic.
But you're just a millionaire with a toy. That's the G-Wagon. That's the G-Wagon with the Rubicon Trail.
It's a millionaire with a toy. And you know what? For all you millionaires who want a toy, this is like, if you have money to burn, do it this way. Set it on fire, buy a Mercedes. Like, this is a fantastic way to do it. I mean, like, the only thing, and this is always a thing I find silly. There's a lot going on the dashboard on this Mercedes. Like, there's a lot. There's, between the sort of all the leather and the trim and the make it pretty, and then the tech and everything. And there's a fancy grab handle that again says G Manufacturer. It's like, but there's down all the way down as far low as you can go on the center stack, right above like the center console area. There is, like, if you took your thumb and your forefinger together, a analog clock that's, the company has just escaped me. And it's a super expensive, fancy pants, outrageous clock company, makes timepieces. And it is the silliest thing to have this little clock shoved all the way down on the bottom. First of all, you can't read it when you're driving because it's so low. You're kind of like, you'd have to sort of lean back and be like, it's like, you can't see it. The angle is so low. Also, I feel like you have a clock on your infotainment screen. You have a clock on the instrument cluster. Why are we shoving this little analog clock on the bottom? I feel like
because you can.
I know you can. I want to spend, let's say it's a $10,000 clock. I want to make it 10 grand. I want to spend my 10 grand on something else. I want to get a fancier leather. I want to get wood on the dash from my estate in Normandy, something. It would not be on the useless little analog clock shoved at the bottom of the dashboard. That was I guess it's my second bone to pick with it. It's a little loud and the clock is silly.
It's there though. That's all that matters. It's there.
It's there. It's there. You will never be able to read it. Robbie, especially with your height, for you to get the right angle to be able to see that, you have to like, wait, let me move my seat back.
Is it easy to set?
I didn't even try and set
Almost
it.
certainly not.
It's
a German vehicle. You cannot possibly have an easy to set analog clock
in
a very expensive German vehicle.
That's why you have a butler, Robbie. Your butler's.
I love my BRZ. There's the little like LED clock or LCD clock, and it just has there's the clock, and then right next to it there's an H, a button with an H and a button with an M. That's it. That's all it does. And so whenever time change, I hit the H, or I need to change the M because there's sort of a drift because it's not connected to the atomic clock in the sky, and that's it.
See, that's what I want. This I didn't even see a button, so it's probably, I don't know. You
probably actually have to have your butler take your G-Wagon into the Mercedes-Benz dealership and have a German technician flown in from Stuttgart to actually set the clock for you.
There's 3 people in that team.
All they do is fly around the world to set clocks.
And all they do is, and when they're in first class flying around the world, they're actually fixing other clocks, like other watches. Like that's
on the little tray, making the watch.
The little tray with the little cloth. Yeah, the little glasses with the super
little monocle thing with a magnifying glass in it.
Yeah.
There you go. If that's not your job, go find Mercedes. There's a job for you.
Yeah.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media. Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? If you're a woman, you're not alone. With over 1,000 hormone disruptors in our environment, it's no wonder things can feel out of balance. On top of that, natural changes like PMS, menopause, and other life stages can leave you feeling tired, irritable, and trapped in a constant battle with your body. But here's the good news. You don't have to suffer through it. Hormone Harmony by Happy Mammoth is here to help. This herbal formula fine-tunes your hormones, balancing estrogen, testosterone, and even stress hormones like cortisol, which can contribute to weight gain, racing thoughts, poor sleep, and more. With over 40,000 five-star reviews and a bottle selling every 24 seconds, the results speak for themselves. Ready to feel like yourself again? For a limited time, get 15% off your first order at happymammoth.com using code NEXTCHAPTER at checkout. Visit happymammoth.com today and get your old self back naturally.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
So that was my one super expensive car. And then I go to the cheap one. I can't believe it, which was the GV70, which is still a $65,000 car. Still not cheap. It's still expensive, still a luxury car. Not as cheap as what Sam is going to be talking about later. But so the Genesis Electrified GV70, in all ways, it's the GV70, just shove the electric powertrain in there. So it ends up with their standard all-wheel drive, 2 electric motors. You got a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, 429 horsepower, 516 pound-feet, and you will go 236 miles before your battery goes kaput. So a decent amount of range. I feel like that's good. I feel like that's going to get everybody through the day, right? Shouldn't that be enough for most people?
Yeah, that's more than enough for most people.
I feel like when it gets over 200, people should stop panicking, but I feel like they don't really stop panicking until they hit 250.
I think there's sort of a mental block, but
Right?
And we do have a listener question later. Maybe you want to address the listener question right now?
Yeah, we can want to pop that in the middle. Go ahead.
Sure.
You read the question.
All right. So Andy C dropped a question to us in Discord. Says, hey, Sam and the gang, I'm looking for a replacement for my end of lease Audi e-tron. A 2-row EV luxury crossover hatchback vehicle is what I'm looking at. My wife has the Ioniq 5. Do you have any input of a replacement that is below $90,000 pre-federal rebate? Well, you'd have to get below 80 to even be eligible for a rebate. But okay, let's say below 90 grand, with at least 250 miles of range. Would love a dual motor Rivian R1S, but who knows when that'll be available? Well, actually, they may be available sooner than you think. Supposedly, sometime in June, they're going to start shipping 2-motor Rivians. But he says, I'm looking at the Genesis GV70 electric. Have any of you driven one? Well, Andy, as a matter of fact, Nicole has. The range seems very so-so at the 230s. The BMW iX has great range, but that face is just gag-inducing. I have a Fisker Ocean down payment and a Q8 e-tron on order, so any input would be helpful.
Well, having just spent some time in the DV City, I like it. I think it's really good. If you look, and I know they're only available like in select state. It's very limited availability on this. It's unsurprising.
It's expanding. Genesis has been gradually expanding the number of states where they're selling their EVs over the past 8-9 months.
So it's getting there. So, so you can get your hands on one. It sounds like it's not like you need one tomorrow, but yeah, if you want it, go get it soon. I like this. I think if you like the Genesis in general, like if you like the Genesis brand, if you looked at any other Genesis vehicles, it feels very much like that. Like you don't know that it's different, except that it's an EV. In all other ways, it's like every other Genesis, very luxurious. You get a lot of features, a lot of luxury for the price. This one I unfortunately have a Monroney, so I can't even tell you what, destination is, but it starts at $65,850, depending on how much you add on. You add on bits and pieces, you can make it fancier, you can make it, more luxurious if you want to do that. But you get it has all the kind of things that you want it to be a luxury car without being the outrageous price. And I know you talked about range, 236 miles. That is really just a skosh under your 250 limit there. That's 14 miles, right? So I know it'd be nice to have the 250. I would not hesitate to get this though, because I think here's the thing, for the most of the time when you're not driving that, right? I know you're not driving 236 miles every day. So it's not a big deal. You have more than enough range. On the times when you do drive more, 14 miles of range, if 250 is sort of your mental break, is not going to make or break your day. If it was something, well, I wanted
also, it's the Hyundai group, so it's going to be more.
Yeah.
It's going to be like 241.
Right. Exactly. And it can do DC fast charging. So you can go from 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. So if you are doing a road trip, you can charge it up pretty darn quick. So you're not going to be sitting around. So I wouldn't let the fact that it's in the 236, like Robbie said, probably a little more than that is what you can average. I feel like it is still worth it. And there are things I really do like this interior. I like the nice large 14.5 inch touchscreen. It has that EV, just, it goes when you push on the pedal. I love, and this is a small thing, the charging port's in the front. It's not on a rear quarter panel or anything, or front quarter panel. It's on the front, which does make it easier when you are driving to places where you have to wedge yourself into some of those wonkety charging spots that are not really, no one thought about cars all having ports in different spots. You can just pull straight in, and it doesn't matter whether it's on the left or the right. You can still get your car plugged in. And I think it drives beautifully. It has everything that makes it feel luxury car, but it has a more affordable price point. Like I think you said you wanted it under 90. You're going to get this under 90, and you're going to get it low enough. I don't know, are all the Genesises still eligible for their tax rebates?
Actually, the GV70 EV is the only one, because that's the only one that's built in North America.
Oh, okay.
It's built in Alabama. The others are all built in Korea. Now, if you lease, you may be able to get the tax credit, depending on where you lease it from. But you may be able to get it if you do a lease. But if you want to buy, then the GV70 would be the only one.
And you mentioned in your question, the Rivian. The Rivian R1S, which I drove like 2 weeks earlier or something, also great, but way, way bigger. That is not it's
a lot.
It's huge. And you were saying, like, you said like smaller, like what if it's a crossover hatchback? It is not crossover hatchback. The thing is big. So
he's replacing an e-tron, an original e-tron. And the Rivian's a bit bigger than the e-tron. The other one that I think might actually be the best fit for him, if he's looking to replace the e-tron, is actually the Mercedes EQE SUV, which I think you've driven, Robbie. I think you may be the only one of us that's driven it. That one has a starting price of around $79, and it has a range that should be around 270 miles, I think.
It's really nice. It's the Mercedes, I think the SUVs in the Mercedes lineup are a little bit better than the sedans, which is not something that you expect me to say. And a lot of it has to do with the design and the way the rear seats are with tall people. That's really comes down to it. I think the EQE is better than the EQS, and when you're talking about the sedans, but the EQS SUV and the EQE SUV are both sort of like deliver that like rear seat experience that you want from a Mercedes.
Oh.
Alrighty. Yeah. And right now I can't think of any other luxury two-row electric utilities that would fit those criteria.
And they have the Ioniq 5, so the bar is really high for them.
Yeah. Right.
The original e-tron was fine for what it was, but then you had the Ioniq 5 comes into your house. You're like, okay, well, all right.
Well, and there's also the Q8 e-tron, which is essentially a renamed and mid-cycle update of the original e-tron, which will have a little more battery capacity, more range, a little bit faster charging. So if you like the e-tron, that Q8 e-tron should be. They just did a media drive with it like in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So it should be showing up in dealers fairly soon, I think. So that may be another one to consider as well.
I'm trying to get that vehicle in right now, so hopefully I can get in within the next week or two. So fingers crossed. Hopefully it's still up here because they did the drive up near my house. But I was in Amsterdam during the time. So.
All righty. Well, as was previously mentioned, did you have anything else on the GV70, Nicole?
No, that kind of covers it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
All right. As previously alluded to, I had something that was slightly less luxurious than any of the stuff that either of you drove over the last couple of weeks. And this is because, as I said, my wife and I were on vacation in Hawaii. And, a lot of times, when I'm traveling, if there's a press fleet in the area where I'm traveling, I'll usually reach out and see if there's something available that I might not have access to locally here in Michigan, and try and get a little time with that. On the Big Island in Hawaii, no press fleet there, so I went to Hertz and rented a car, and got the 2023 Chevrolet Equinox LT front wheel drive.
Yeah. The rental car special.
Yep, it certainly is. I do believe that this is the first time that I've ever gotten into a car that actually had a screen protector on the infotainment touchscreen, which is not at all surprising, for a rental car.
Like it was new, like the car was so new they hadn't taken the screen protector off, like that little thing. Or they put it on there because people are using their sandy, salty hands and destroying the. Okay.
Yes, this was one that was clearly not from the factory. I mean, I've seen whenever you buy a phone or something or a tablet, whatever, there's always a little thing that you peel off the screen. This was not that. This was an actual screen protector because it wasn't quite, and it was clearly not. I don't think was intended, specifically for this vehicle or its purpose, because it was slightly smaller than the screen itself, but covered most of the screen. But when you've got people, rental customers getting in and out, you want to, have some protection for stuff like that. So that was fine. The LT is not the base bottom of the line version of the Equinox. That's the LS. So that's the base trim. So the LT is one step up. It's a small step, but it's a step up.
Baby step.
And the Equinox is GM, Chevrolet's compact crossover in the same segment with the Toyota RAV4 and the Honda CR-V and the Ford Escape and about 63 other different models that are available in the U.S. market, and it's adequate. It's the current one is nearing the end of its model life cycle. It'll probably be replaced. Well, there is an Equinox EV coming to market this fall that will be actually very slightly larger than this one, believe it or not. And it's unclear how long the gas Equinox will stay in the lineup. They'll probably keep building this, for at least another 2 or 3 years. It's not a terrible vehicle. It's actually, if you're looking for,
it's not terrible.
No,
There's other cars that are better, but it's not terrible.
Yeah.
Like if it showed up at your house, you wouldn't light it on fire.
Would it be, out of this segment, would it be my first choice? Probably not. But, this one, this LT, as I said, was fairly basic. It's got a 7-inch infotainment screen. It does have support for wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and even the base infotainment system works reasonably well. It's got USB-A and USB-C ports in the front. It's got cup holders that will actually hold stuff, and hold them fairly securely. It's got actually a lot of cargo space in the back. It's got almost 30 cubic feet, just shy of 30 cubic feet behind the rear seats. So for us, we were, going to the beach every day. The condo that we had rented, had, some beach chairs and boogie boards and snorkeling gear. And so I just took all that stuff down, put it in the back, and there was plenty of room back there, to put all this stuff in there and, take it to the beach and haul it around. So, it's got, it's a good utility vehicle. It's got plenty of space for, both for cargo in the back as well as passengers in the second row. And the Equinox has a sliding second row seat that can move forward and back. I think it's about 8 inches. So, if you need to carry a couple of Robbies in the back with you, you can slide that back and still have lots and lots of cargo space, or if you've got a couple of kids, and you've got, especially if you've got a couple of young kids, that are in car seats, and maybe even a toddler or an infant, and you need to pack in, a portable playpen and crib and all kinds of, all the gear that parents are familiar with, that, whenever you want to go somewhere and it's like, it becomes a major production. There's enough space in the back of the Equinox to carry all that stuff, which is actually really nice.
That's what you want.
Yeah, no,
you just want to carry your crap everywhere.
Yeah, it's a very good utility vehicle. It's a nice design. I like the design of the current generation Equinox. It's not groundbreaking, but I think it's a very pleasant looking vehicle. The interior materials are not, they don't feel luxurious, but they do feel durable. They feel like they will hold up for, a couple of 100,000 miles without showing off too many blemishes.
That matters when you have kids, because
absolutely,
Jesus out of things.
Yeah. The LT that we had cloth seats, so you may want to consider, maybe upgrading to, some of the available, artificial leather seats. That might be easier to clean. But aside from that, it's not bad. Probably the single biggest complaint I actually had about this thing, it comes with a fairly basic driver assist suite that does not include blind spot monitoring. It does have forward, monovision, a single camera forward collision alert system. There's no adaptive cruise control, no radar adaptive cruise control. So, compared to, say, a RAV4, which comes standard with some of that stuff. This was one of the complaints I had, several years back when GM launched this generation of the Equinox and some of their other vehicles, is that they were kind of cheaping out on a lot of the driver assist features that other companies were starting to include as standard equipment. You can get adaptive cruise control on here, but you have to step up to a higher trim level, and it adds quite a bit of cost. So there's a camera-based forward collision alert system that is, cameras are not great for, especially a single camera is not the greatest thing in the world for measuring distance. And so
close one of your eyes and walk around your house for them.
Yeah. And so, it was frequently going off, giving me alerts even when I had lots and lots of room. So it was a little bit annoying, and I kept forgetting to go into the menus, after I parked it, to find where to turn that off, because I think there is somewhere where you can turn it off. But that was probably the single biggest annoyance of this thing. The engine, it's a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder turbo, with I think it's about 175 horsepower, which is adequate. This is not not a sports car. But it'll do. It'll get you around 203 foot-pounds of torque, and fuel economy. Again, it's okay. It's not great. Especially if you compare it to some of the hybrid vehicles that are available in this class now, from Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Ford. They all offer hybrids in this segment. GM does not offer a hybrid. So the front wheel drive that we had is rated at 26 city, 31 highway. I was getting an indicated about 27 and a half combined, driving around the Big Island, including, some driving up mountains and down mountains and stuff, or more accurately, driving up volcanoes and down volcanoes. But it's adequate. It's not exceptional fuel economy, but it's not terrible. It's certainly better than that Expedition. So, if you're looking for, some basic transportation that is bigger than, say, something like the Chevy Trax or Hyundai Venue or Nissan Kicks, this is not a bad place to look. And, if you're looking for a rental vehicle, this is not a bad choice. You just bring your USB cable, plug in your phone. You'll have your, or actually, you don't even have to plug in your phone. You can pair your phone and then just use it wirelessly. And have your navigation and everything. Worked really well. Obviously there was no Monroney with a rental car, but I built out basically the same one. It comes to an MSRP of $29,095 for the front wheel drive LT. You want to guess at the freight charge, the destination charge?
$1,200.
You're going $995.
$1,395. Robbie gets it this time. And there is currently on the Equinox $1,500 rebate available, which is something we haven't seen much of for the last couple of years.
There you go.
So net price, as shown on the Chevrolet website, on the build-in price, $27,595. So not a bad vehicle. I mean, it's not going to excite you, but it's for basic transportation. It'll get the job done.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's kind of neat for you to review what's a rental car, because most people are we often are getting the highest trims or the nicest ones with all the bells and whistles. Not everybody is buying that, because it adds a lot to the price to move up the trim lineup and get all this stuff. So
I don't buy that. I buy what's the one I can afford? Okay, it's one up from bottom.
Yeah.
So you're buying the one that's is going to get the job done. That's kind of what a rental car does, and this does it. It gets the job done.
It does
the job done.
Yeah, got us around the island. Got us to all the beaches we wanted to go to, and everywhere we needed to go. And
did you get some Hawaiian shaved ice while you were out and about?
I did get some shave ice with some coconut and passion fruit.
Nice.
And
living a dream.
Ate lots of fresh fish, lots of poke.
Okay.
And as it turns out, the Airbnb we were staying at, they're right across the street. There was this little sort of open air marketplace called Ali'i Gardens Marketplace, and a bunch of vendors in there, including a Shaka Tacos trailer, and
lots of tacos is what you're saying.
They make the most amazing fish burritos. With grilled ono in there. Oh, it was so good.
I don't eat fish for a month before I go to Hawaii. That's the rule. I'm waiting, holding it. I'm waiting.
Yeah.
And with the fruits. I go and I eat all the fruit in the entire island. I'm all the mangoes, just put them here on the table. I'll be eating those for the next week.
Yeah.
We ate so many papayas, papayas for, every morning with breakfast. It was great. So highly recommend, if you're looking for, a place with great beaches, just fantastic weather. If you can swing it, Hawaii is just amazing.
Yeah.
And this was the first time that we'd been to the Big Island.
We love the Big Island.
Yeah. I mean, my wife and I had been to Kauai 3 times before over the last 30 years, including when we got married. And this was our first time to the Big Island, and it was lovely.
I'm gonna
snorkeling with manta rays, and
oh yeah, we did that. That was great.
And we were sitting on Ho'okana Beach the other day, and about 200 yards out, we saw a pod of dolphins hopping out of the water and swimming by. It was fabulous.
Very cool.
It's all the things.
Yeah.
It's all the things that you expect from Hawaii. Like Hawaii's like, yeah, we can deliver that.
Yeah.
Dolphins, fish, pretty views. Come on, we got you.
I actually have one more car that I completely forgot about.
What was that?
It was a 2023 Mercedes-Benz GLC. This is the new version of the GLC. I had it for a week. It was, instead of doing a press drive, they just dropped it off at my house.
Oh, nice.
And so I had it for a week. Mercedes says this is the #1 selling vehicle in the United States for them. It's their midsize SUV, and it makes sense because it's just like a nice. I want a Mercedes, but I'm not a billionaire.
It's basically like the Mercedes equivalent of an Equinox.
Yeah, it's like the Mercedes Equinox. It is. It's about the same size, except it's. I'm just going to say it's way nicer. This one has a 2-liter inline four-cylinder with turbo engine. It's a mild hybrid, so you don't have to worry about when it does the auto off, it boom, and then it just kind of goes until the motor catches up. 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. I drove it around for a week. I use it for another show for my band. There's plenty of room in the back.
You pull up in that thing, and the people say, "How much are we paying these guys?"
I know. Well, they weren't paying us very much for the show, but it was fine. It was a friend discount for the show. It's it has MBUX in there. It has all the things you want from Mercedes. It has the 0-layer and MBUX, which I really like, which is just like, here's the map, and then a few little widgets for things that you use, and that's it. And I feel like why just do that, everyone, just do that, because that's all everyone cares about is the map and the few little widgets. I'm listening to music. This is where I can push forward and back on the music. That's really it. It's this. I really like this vehicle. It's the latest version of it. It's a refresh. And the week I had it, 47,000. The one I had with all the extra bits, including the driver's assistance package, was $61,250. The Monroney I have doesn't have a destination delivery fee on it, so who knows? Yeah. The gas is 28 combined, 25 city, 32 highway. That's pretty much in line with what I got. So you're getting about 30 miles per gallon in this thing. And I drove it up and down in the Bay Area a bunch of times to do a lot of things. I had to do a show that was 45 minutes away. And then after I set up, I had to come home and feed my dogs and then drive back home. And it's a nice sort of entry level Mercedes-Benz for someone who needs an SUV, but doesn't need like an S-Class. It's a nice little car. It's a nice little luxury vehicle. You're getting all that fun Mercedes bits without emptying your bank account.
You won't be broke afterwards.
Yeah, you won't be broke. It's the Mercedes for people who want a Mercedes but don't want to be broke.
Yes.
So the GLC, I really liked it. The new version is nice. And again, I can't say enough nice things about MBUX. It's still, I understand people can't, it doesn't work for everyone, the voice recognition, but it works fine for me. I don't know why. I'm just a lucky guy. Who knows?
You're the one that was somebody, it was a friend who Lexus doesn't listen to him. He's like, he could be screaming.
That was me.
Is that you?
That was you?
Yeah, that was only in the RX though.
That's right. It was you. I couldn't remember too.
And everything else, it works fine, but the RX refused to recognize me.
Oh, some BS.
But I've got an RX coming in about a month, scheduled in about a month, and so I will try it again and see if it actually works now.
Maybe it's forgiven you. Maybe it's come to terms with your voice.
Maybe. Toyotas work fine. Other Lexi, the NX worked fine with the same system in there. So I don't know what was going on with the RX.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Have you ever killed a houseplant before? Don't worry, you are not alone. But what if I told you you're not destined to be a plant killer? What if I told you you could not only fill your home with gorgeous, luscious, happy, thriving plants, but live a happier life through caring for them? Hey, new plant friend, my name is Maria. I am a former plant killer turned happy plant lady and host of the Growing Joy with Plants podcast, where it is my life's mission to help you grow happy plants and thrive alongside them. Because when you learn to care for plants, you really learn to slow down, connect with nature, and nurture yourself too. Each week, I share expert tips, inspiring conversations, and soulful planty wisdom to help you grow a greener, happier life. So if you're ready to turn your plant struggles into plant joy and get the green thumb you've always dreamed of, search Growing Joy with Plants wherever you listen to podcasts and hit subscribe. That's Growing Joy with Plants podcast. Let's grow some joy together.
All right. So the reason why I was in, or what triggered the trip to Hawaii in the first place was Toyota. Toyota invited us there to drive the new Grand Highlander and also to unveil the new Tacoma. So since Nicole and I were there, we drove together. And amazingly enough, this was actually the first time that we actually drove together on a program.
It was.
And so we spent the day driving around the
Oh,
Big
you guys
Island.
drove together? Nice.
Yeah.
Super fun.
And then we sat down and recorded our impressions of the Grand Highlander, sitting on the balcony of the hotel room that my wife and I had, and down below us there was a hall, event center, and there was something going on there. And during the course of our conversation, the cacophony from this hall got progressively louder and louder and louder. Fortunately, very little of it actually got picked up on my recorder.
Funny. We sat out there. It was like quiet, just a little breeze. It was like then really loud birds.
You hear the birds chirping.
Then birds got loud because apparently there's a bird nest up there. Then a whole party. I'm like, come on, people, give us 15 minutes here.
But I've got that recording. I'm going to drop that in here. Nicole.
Yes.
We are here in Hawaii, on the Kona coast, on the Big Island, and we drove the Toyota Grand Highlander.
We did.
And what would you say? Let's jump right to the end.
Okay.
What would you say was the highlight of the drive?
I got coffee.
There you go. It's all done. Nicole got coffee.
No.
She got a lot of coffee.
I did. I bought a lot of coffee. I have bags and bags of it. No, what did I think the highlight of the drive was? What I think was it one thing? I think the Hybrid Max, that engine proved to be the highlight of the experience for me. I really liked that one. That was my favorite part.
Okay. Yeah. I would agree that that was certainly the best powertrain of the three. So, stepping back a little bit, just to review what this vehicle is.
Yes.
This is Toyota's new upper midsize 3-row crossover SUV. A little bit bigger than the regular Highlander, the Highlander that we've had for current generation for 3 years now, I think?
I think it's about 3 years, yeah.
It's actually not much longer. Like, it has a pretty similar footprint, but it's quite a bit taller.
Yep.
And it has a totally different look to it.
And actually, I think it looks much better. I don't dislike the regular Highlander. It's fine. But I just think this one sort of has a bit more, a bit more presence. It looks a little more modern. It's more squared off without being boxy and awful, but it looks bolder.
Yeah.
It looks bigger. It looks like it's a lot bigger than it really is compared to it. I think just because of the styling. You think there's a bigger increase in size than there actually is between the two. Yeah,
the proportions make quite a substantial difference to the way it looks. And I think I've said before, the design of this one is. It seems to draw a lot of DNA from the RAV4.
Yes.
Especially in the front. So it's got a more SUV-ish kind of look, whereas the regular Highlander, the Highlander Highlander, the ungrand Highlander, has in its current generation has a much more rounded look, which is quite a bit different. The previous generation Highlander was actually a lot closer to what this Grand Highlander is in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I would say so. And it's sort of like they made I'm going to call it the ungrand now, the ungrand Highlander. Just kind of, it looks, it's as if they were trying to make it look more crossover-ish with sort of those smaller, sort of rounder dimensions and try to make it look a little bit more cute, not so in your face. With the Grand Highlander,
sportier looking.
Yeah, sportier. Yeah, sportier. And so with the Grand Highlander, they no, we're going to go the other way. We're going to make this look like it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more capable in terms of its ability to carry people and carry cargo. You feel like, okay, this could take your family on a road trip. It's big enough to handle whatever it is you got to shove in that car and all the people with no problem.
Yeah, I mean the way Toyota describes it, I think is that the ungrand Highlander, has 3 rows, but that third row is really more for occasional use.
Yeah.
And for those people that want something where they can actually really use that third row on a regular basis, even for adults, that's where the Grand Highlander comes in. Plus, it's also got more cargo room behind that third row. One of the images that they showed during the presentation was actually having 7 suitcases, standard size carry-on bags stacked behind the third row, which is pretty impressive, for one of these, this type of vehicle.
And that's a lot because you figure if you've got a vehicle that can handle up to 8 passengers, even if you've got a small bag for each of you, that's still a lot of luggage. So you can manage to have, enough for everybody to go along without having to worry about now we're going to have to put luggage at people's feet to get to the airport kind of thing.
Yeah, or get a roof rack or something like that.
Or tow, because it does tow. I was just looking at it. I think it's about 3,500 pounds with the hybrid, and I believe 5,000 with the hybrid max and the gas engine. So you can hook up a trailer if you got a ton of people and you still need more room.
Yeah, I mean it's not, it's not going to tow your big camper trailer, but certainly some smaller trailers, or if you're towing a modest sized boat out to the lake or something like that, a lot of those weigh around 4,000 pounds or so you can certainly handle something like that without any difficulty.
And it was for me because we actually played around with the seating, and you had the seats adjusted for you're 5'11", right?
Yeah.
So you were sitting up front, and then I was sitting behind that, and adjusted the second row for me at 5'6", and then you climbed in the back, so it was like 5'11", 5'6", 5'11", and you could still fit back there, and it wasn't like horrifically cramped, so it is roomy.
Yeah, the floor level in that third row is a little bit higher than it is in the first 2 rows, so it's a little more of a knee up kind of seating position, but not like, for example, in previous generations of the GM full-size SUVs like the Tahoe and Suburban, where they had a solid axle that was moving around, and those you kind of felt like you're sitting on the floor with your butt on the floor and your knees up and up in your chest. It was definitely more comfortable. And I had. And as we've talked about before, everybody's got different proportions of their body. I'm a little longer in the torso, but I still had clearance for my head from the headliner, and I had a couple of inches, at least 2 or 3 inches of knee room back there, and I could also slide my feet under those second row seats when you had it positioned where you were comfortable as well.
Right.
So you could definitely take certainly if you have the bench seating configuration, which is technically an 8-passenger because there are 3 seat belts in that third row.
Right, but like you were sitting back there, and I looked in the back seat and I'm like, man, there's one adult could sit next to you.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could get 3 adults back there unless they were really teeny tiny people, because just your shoulders. You
could get 3 Jill Simonellos back there.
You could get 3 Jill Simonellos if you were doing the Simonello measurement system.
Yeah.
She's a teeny tiny little journalist. But like for you, it was 2 people. Like I think 2, for the most part, 2 adults could fit
average
back
adults
there.
could fit
if you're
there,
putting
or 3 kids.
Yeah, or 3 kids. If you're putting 3 adults back there, it better be for a 5-minute ride to dinner, because you're all sitting sideways in your seats.
Yeah.
There's no way you're really going to sit 3 adults back there.
Yeah, and you can get the second row with either 2 captain's chairs or a bench.
Yeah.
And if you get the captain's chairs, there's like the Nissan Pathfinder and the new Infiniti QX60, there's a center console that is removable. So you have the option of taking that out when you don't need it and having a pass through there.
Or, let's be real, your kids are going to climb right over that center console, whether you remove it or not. They're just using that as a step.
That's a very good point.
But at least they're not cartwheeling over the seats and getting little footprints on the roof, right?
That's true, yeah. So, we had an opportunity to spend quite a few hours driving around the island here yesterday with all three configurations. And some of it, they actually put together quite a nice drive route.
They did.
There was a mountain road with a lot of curves, and
we made one wrong turn. I don't know how. We saw a bunch of chickens and little chicks crossing the road. We saw some goats.
Yep.
We saw nature. We weren't supposed to be on that road. I'm like, this road is one car width. Where the heck are we?
Yeah.
But we made it through. I'm like, okay, good thing no one else came.
That's true. So no serious off-roading. I mean, this isn't the Toyota Tacoma Trailhunter,
correct,
which we're going to see in a little while. But it's I think for typical family use, I think it came across really well, and I think it felt very composed on that road, heading up into the mountains, or into the volcanoes more technically. It was. I think it had quite a comfortable ride. It didn't feel bouncy or floppy or anything like that. It's something that you can drive, and it's going to feel controlled. You're not going to feel uncomfortable, and it's probably not going to make you nauseous.
No, hey, that's a bonus compared to the VinFast I was in last week. Did not make me nauseous with you driving or me driving. Woohoo! No, I definitely think it's very accommodating. It is the kind of vehicle that you really think, yes, you could take a road trip in this, because the seats are comfortable, the engines, no matter which, they're not all exactly the same, but they're all responsive enough. Like you're going to get moving, you're going to get going onto the highway, not feel like it's lagging and you can't really do what you want to do. And I like the interior. And I forget how many water bottles, but the water bottle, like on the side, like in the doors,
the door pockets,
they're huge.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like a little plastic water bottle you got at the convenience store. You could fit a great big water bottle in that, which, don't underestimate the importance of those little things, especially when you have a lot of family on board. You got a lot of people, you're going to have bottles, you're going to have this, you suddenly went through the drive-thru, you forgot you had something else, you got to shove something in the door pocket, that was nice. And I really like, one of my favorite things about the interior is how the USB charging ports are set up. So in the front,
good point,
right, there's three up front. So there's one that is direct, like on the right hand side, far right of the dashboard, for the passenger. So you can plug in and charge, and you don't have to like plug it in the middle and have the cord running all the way across you, or be fishing for it on the center console, or looking for it inside of the center console, which is the worst thing. And there's like a little shelf right there, so
a little trough that
you can plug it in, and you can like leave it right there, so you can let it charge and it's out of the way. And then if you're still the passenger, but really for the driver, there is two more little ports. One, and it's so clearly marked, one is a charging port, one is to connect the Bluetooth so that you're connected to the car. One's your data port. And sometimes you can't tell which is which. You literally don't know until you plug in the phone. You're like, that's not working, and you have to switch. This is very clearly marked, very easy to get to. I thought that was fantastic, because it removes frustration. You know exactly where things are to plug them in.
Yeah, and I've noticed, recently on a number of vehicles that the data port, the only distinguishing element of it, I think it's actually on Hyundai's, Hyundai Kias. They put a white outline around one of the ports. That's the data port. The ones that don't have the white outline around it, they're just charging ports.
And I literally never even noticed that differentiator. So it's like, but if you don't know that,
I found it by trial and error.
He's like, wait a minute.
Why isn't this connecting?
And that's the worst, right? So you're sitting there, you're plugging in, you're like, gosh dang it, I just want to get this plugged in and work. There's no frustration. You plug in. If you want to use a data port, if you're the passenger and that's what you're doing, you can see which one it is. If you're the driver and you know it already because you drive the car all the time, cool. But for the passenger, that's great, because you have people along for the ride who don't necessarily know your car.
Right. So you got the 3 USB-C ports in the front row, 2 more in the second row, 2 more in the third row, so everybody can charge all their devices.
Everybody gets their devices charged. Yeah.
So you did bring along a cookie.
I did.
And there's no work surface. There's no official.
There's no cookie table.
There's no cookie
it's
table.
It's not an F-150. There's no cookie table.
But would you say that the Grand Highlander suffices?
The Grand Highlander suffices. The console was nice and flat. I did tuck the cookie right there. It was good. And then for storage, I love this in front of the cup holders that are in the console. There's this huge deep spot in front of it that I put my phone in vertically into that spot, and my wallet and the cookie while it was in transport, all fit in that little thing.
Yeah, and there's another cubby in front of that, a horizontal one. On one side is the Qi wireless charging port, and then the other side is just a place to put more stuff. And then if you put your phone and stuff in there, your wallet and things in there, you can use that space that you were just describing. So there's two standard cup holders, and then there's this other cavity where I think they actually described it in the presentations. It's big enough to hold, like one of those massive drink cups from the gas station or wherever.
So you technically have 3 spots. It's all these little things. Family life is complicated. You never know what you're going to have with you when you're trying to juggle things with the kids. Your brain is kind of scattered sometimes. So to have all these spots where it's I can just throw everything in here. I don't have to worry about where I'm going to put things. You can just toss it all in. There's a spot for everything. I love that.
Yeah. No, so I think overall, really good family vehicle. Let's go back to the powertrains. And wrap that part up. So three powertrain options. The base setup is 2.4 liter turbo 4-cylinder, which has been gradually rolling out across the various Toyota and Lexus vehicles over the last year and a half or so since it came out. And that one's about 276 horsepower roughly.
I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
And then and that's the first one that we drove.
Yes. So we started off with a gas engine. Yep.
And then the second one is the more traditional Toyota hybrid. It's the 5th generation Toyota hybrid system, as they call it. So this is basically the same powertrain that you can also get in the Grand Highlander and also in the Camry and a bunch of other vehicles. The RAV4 has it. So it's a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4 with the CVT, the traditional. We got some sparrows nesting right above us here.
Oh my God!
We're sitting out on the balcony, so that one is I think about a little over 200. I think it's about 210 horsepower.
Yep.
And that's with the classic eCVT.
Right. Whereas the gas has an 8-speed automatic. Then now you're going to CVT, and not only do you get less power, you get the CVT, which is kind of loud. I mean, it still does what it's supposed to do, but there's a dramatic difference in how
it's very fuel efficient.
It's very fuel efficient. It's the most fuel efficient option of the lot, but it's loud. It's after spending some time in that gas engine to switch over to that hybrid, I'm like, well, this isn't nice.
Yeah.
I just didn't like it. I enjoyed driving the gas one. I did not enjoy the straight up hybrid as much because of that noisiness. I mean, it just sounds when you push the gas, if you're really asking for power, it sounds so strained. Like, it can do it, but can it?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, this powertrain, you find it, in a lot of smaller Toyota vehicles. This is the largest Toyota that has this powertrain in there. And you feel like it's working. I mean, it's still very efficient. The fact that you can get 36 miles per gallon
it's crazy.
in this size of vehicle is impressive. But when you drive it, you hear it. It feels like it's working.
It is letting you know that you are demanding a lot of it, and it is trying.
Yeah. And then of course there's the new Hybrid Max, which I think we first saw it on the Toyota Crown.
Yes.
It was on the Lexus RX.
Okay.
Was the first one, and then on the Crown, and now it's on here. And this is a new version of Toyota's hybrid system that dispenses with the eCVT and has a conventional 8-speed automatic.
I think it's a 6.
Or 6.
It's
Sorry,
six.
right. It is a 6-speed.
Yep.
With the 2.4 turbo.
Yeah.
And you can also get it with all-wheel drive with the. Actually, I think it's always all-wheel drive.
It's always all-wheel drive with the Max.
An electric motor on the rear axle as well for the all-wheel drive, and that's 326 horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque, and that one.
That's the one. I mean, here's the thing. It is doesn't have the noise of the hybrid. It doesn't quite get it's not as efficient as it in terms of fuel economy, but it's still better than the gas engine.
Yeah.
It is a happy medium on fuel efficiency, but in terms of performance and engagement, I liked it the best.
Yeah.
So it is the one that I would go for. I mean, it was so nice to have a hybrid that whine. I just hate how that CVT sounds. So to have something that is getting good fuel economy and is nice to drive and doesn't sound horrible, that's the one.
Yeah, and we drove that, as I said, up into the mountains, up to, I think, about 4,000 feet altitude was roughly the peak of where we were. And it didn't feel like it was working particularly hard at all. It had plenty of performance. For a vehicle this size, I think I would definitely agree that is the best choice.
And it's more expensive. I'm forgetting pricing, so it goes towards the top of the price range.
Depending on the trim level, I think the Platinum approaches $60,000.
It does. Like the most expensive ones are $60,000, or in that 60. So so there's a pretty you're paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something I feel like if it's in your budget, if you can afford it and you want to have that performance, go with that one. Like I think it's enough that it's worth driving. If you're just like, I'll just get the hybrid, I'm fine. No. Try the hybrid Max because you're going to find it a much nicer car. You're going to enjoy driving that one a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. So one last thing I want to touch on. During the Q&A after the presentation before we went out to drive, Toyota was asked, why there's no Grand Highlander Prime, no plug-in hybrid.
No plug-in.
And they made some excuses.
Blah blah blah.
They didn't think this customer base would necessarily want that. And frankly, I don't agree. I think this is the perfect customer base for the plug-in hybrid. If they offered a 35, you can get 40 miles of electric range in a RAV4 Prime. If you could get 35 miles in this thing, that would be a killer.
I think people would take it because, you look at how popular the RAV4 Prime is, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get one right now because everybody wants one. They aren't making them fast enough to satisfy the demand there. I think if they did a plug-in with this, I think people would love it because you're also, again, it's a family vehicle, so you're doing a lot of driving. Generally speaking, when you have a family, you're budgeting a heck of a lot of stuff between the kids and the husband and the wife or whoever. So to be able to budget okay, our fuel economy just get that much better because I can plug it in and get that 30 miles of electric range. I think that would have been great.
Which is, all the driving that most people do on a daily basis. You plug it in the evening.
Yes.
You unplug it in the morning. You do all the things that you do, commuting to work, taking the kids to school, wherever else they need to go. And then you're not going to need to use almost any gas.
Right. So think about how even though it's more expensive generally than other trims, you're getting a lot back by not having to fill the tank quite so often. So I don't know why they didn't. And they didn't seem to feel they didn't do that hinting oh, it's not here yet.
I think
they were hinting.
No, I think they made it pretty clear that they don't intend at this point to do a Prime version of this vehicle. And we were talking about this a little bit, and last night at dinner, I asked Dave Christ from Toyota how many they think they're going to sell of this, and first year, they're looking about 75,000 or so, and then once they get up to full production rate, and this vehicle is going to be built exclusively at the Toyota plant in Indiana, where they also build the Sienna. They think they'll probably get close to 100,000. And this is a North America only vehicle.
Right.
I think if they sold the Grand Highlander in other markets and they had more volume, then I think that particularly if they offered it in Europe, but a vehicle this size probably wouldn't sell real well in Europe.
It's too big. They just don't do large vehicles like this as a rule.
But, if it was offered in more markets and had higher overall volume, then I think they would do the Prime. But, the plug-in hybrid would probably only get somewhere between 5 and 10% of take rate, which be between maybe 5 and 10,000 vehicles.
So it's a small number.
And they probably felt that it's not worth engineering another that particular powertrain for this particular vehicle.
And when you look at all the, there are still lots of issues with them getting all the parts they need, not just Toyota, everybody, to make vehicles. So it's okay, so we got enough to make these 3 different powertrains. I'm going to add a 4th in there. That increases the complication and the chances that we're not going to be able to get it because this one thing is missing. So to keep it to 3 is already a lot of options. So I get it, but I think a plug-in would have been cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. But still the options you have are really good ones. The hybrid is very fuel efficient, if a little unruly sounding.
Yes.
and the Max is definitely the one to get.
It is.
Especially if you live in a place where you're climbing mountains and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. The Max is my favorite. That's the one I would get if I was looking at this.
All right. So that's the Toyota Grand Highlander, our first drive impressions. And
yes.
Hopefully in the coming months we'll have a chance to spend more quality time with it and try piling more people in and then see how they feel
and
about
carrying
it.
more cookies.
Yeah, absolutely carrying more cookies. All right, thanks, and thanks everybody. All right, we're back. After the evening after we drove the Grand Highlander, Toyota had a luau, or they had a Kahlua pig. We got to see them digging up the pig out of the ground, and that was.
It was much larger when it was buried in the ground under all the banana leaves or the leaves. I thought it was going to be a great big pig, and it comes out like this little flat, little thin, little. I'm like, man, that was much more impressive when it was buried.
Yeah. But it was still really tasty.
It was very tasty pig, yes.
Yeah. And then they showed off the new Tacoma, the 2024 Toyota Tacoma. So kind of the last of the midsize pickups to get a complete redesign. Over the last year or two, we've seen new Ranger, new Canyon in Colorado, new Nissan Frontier, and now we've got the Tacoma, which is far and away the best selling of the midsize pickups. It sells more than twice as many as the GM, the Chevy and GMC trucks combined. Definitely well more than double the number of Rangers. And an interesting stat that Dave Christ, I think he's the head of Toyota brand now for North America, mentioned during dinner the night before, was the Tacoma for 22 years now has actually been the best-selling nameplate in the state of Hawaii.
Oh yeah,
better selling than any other vehicle.
It is the official vehicle of Hawaii.
Yeah.
I had no idea, and then all of a sudden, once I knew that, I was like, "Look, they're
everywhere. They're everywhere because they're rugged. You can get them off-wheel drive. You can get them all-wheel drive. There's a ton of aftermarket stuff. There's a lot of like trails in Hawaii that you have to drive on, and so yeah, you want a rugged truck that you can do work with and get to where you want to go.
And even some of the access roads to get to beaches, they are nominally paved. And while they
paved with air quotes,
yeah, and while they don't necessarily have Michigan style potholes, they're not exactly smooth much of the time. So you want something that's going to be fairly rugged and durable. And so we got the Tacoma, and they sell a ton of those in Hawaii, and we've got a new one, with a couple of new variants of it, including this Trailhunter for overlanding, what's interesting, is the at least Ford and GM on their new midsize trucks, they've dropped the extended cab versions and are just doing crew cabs now for the new ones. Toyota has got a crew cab. Interestingly enough, though, it doesn't have the rear hinged half doors on there like they've had in the past. So it's purely a 2-door extended cab midsize pickup, and you can get the Tacoma with either a 2.4 liter turbo that's been showing up in all kinds of Toyota and Lexus vehicles, or the 2.4 liter turbo iForce Max, hybrid system, similar to what's on the Tundra and the Sequoia, but with a 4-cylinder instead of the V6. So it's the same 2.4 turbo, and you can even get the natural or the non-hybrid version with a manual transmission still in certain trim levels, like in the Pre-Runner and the SR5. What do you guys think about the Tacoma?
I think they did good. I mean, just first of all, they kept enough of what you needed to keep, like the capability, the very, like you can get out there, can do anything, but then updated the stuff that needed to be updated. Like they didn't break it. I'm always worried they're going to break them,
Yeah. I mean, the fact you can get a hybrid or a manual transmission, I'm just like, well, yeah, no wonder this is, when you think mid-sized truck, I always forget the Ranger even exists, to be honest. I see them. They're around.
Yeah.
Because when the Ranger came out, everyone was like, oh my God, the Ranger's back, the Ranger's back, the Ranger's back. Now someone asked me about a mid-sized truck, and I'm like, Tacoma?
Tacoma? Taco? Just get the Taco.
Yeah.
The Taco, they're like, I'm sorry, I'm not hungry. I was looking for a truck, but still, yeah.
No, it's. I think they're going to sell 1 billion of these. I'm a fan of the hybrid system because the hybrid in a truck is always great. I mean, the Maverick. I would like Toyota to make a small Maverick type vehicle with a hybrid. That would be dope. Or a small, oh my God, with a manual transmission. Either way, no, the Tacoma is great. They're going to sell a billion of these in Hawaii. They're going to sell a billion of these in my neighborhood. My neighbors have like 2 Toyota trucks, and yeah, it's. I think the Tundra to me is just too much. It's just slow down.
Yeah.
The Tacoma, though, on the other hand, is like, yeah. This is why people buy Toyota trucks. For this is what they want.
Did you see the seats on the new TRD Pro?
I don't. So what is going on with it? It's like RoboCop. It's
So the TRD Pro is, sort of Toyota's answer to, the Raptor or the ZR2 for the Canyon. It is the high-speed off-road. So they've actually got a couple of different, really off-road oriented, high-end off-road oriented trims. They've got the new Trailhunter, and last year at SEMA they showed a Tundra Trailhunter concept, and the Trailhunter is for overlanding. So it's got a beefy suspension, and it's designed to hold more stuff. To put lots of gear on there. Put your pop-up tent camper on the back and things like that. The TRD Pro is kind of the desert racer version, and rock crawler. And so they have these new seats on the TRD Pro that actually have their own dampers built into the back of the seat. And what do they call? I forget what they call these things.
ISO dynamic performance seats.
Yeah. So I guess the whole structure, they had one out there, to sit on, and just sitting on it, you can't really get an impression of how it actually works. But I guess the idea here is that, this is supposed to provide some more isolation for the driver when you're going over the really rough terrain, or the driver and the front passenger, actually. So that you've got this structure on the back of the seat that's got a couple of dampers built into it. And I guess the seat back and the seat cushion can move somewhat independently of each other. I'll be curious to see what this is actually like, when we actually get to try it off-road.
All I can see is my knees getting destroyed if I'm sitting in the back seat.
Yeah, well, and
your knees bounce. Oh, ouch! Oh, if your knees hit that, imagine if you bounce a little. You're not bouncing against a piece of plastic. You're bouncing against
whatever's going on.
Yeah,
just a suspension system in the front seats.
Well, actually, for you, Robbie, you're probably not going to want to sit in the back seat of a Tacoma anyway.
Yeah.
I sat in the back seat of the Trailhunter, and it's a little snug. I mean, I'm not as tall as you are, and my knees were touching the front. I set the front seat, for my height, and then got in the back, and my knees were almost touching the seat back.
And I'm not going to have a good time.
There's like no room under the front seats to get your feet under there either, so there's no real foot room there. So you're probably not going to want to sit in the back seat of any Tacoma.
So it's mostly for the dogs. That's a dog sitting in the back seat.
Yeah,
they don't need room.
And for that, you can fold down the back seat, like fold down the seat back in the back. So the dog, great for the dogs. You can also pop it up, and there's some storage underneath the seat cushions in the back as well. Some lockable storage.
So that's nice.
Yeah. So that's the Tacoma. And they borrowed a little feature for the Trailhunter from Rivian. They've got a JBL Bluetooth speaker that's embedded in the top of the dashboard that you can remove, and you can put it outside. So when you've set up your campsite,
I just think that's a cute idea.
Yeah. So that's the new Tacoma. Next up, while I was in Hawaii, I got a message from somebody at Ford saying, "Hey, there's going to be a Twitter Spaces event later this afternoon," which I didn't tune into, with Jim Farley and Elon Musk. Did either of you listen to this?
I did not.
I think I was somewhere, and I was just like, "What? No."
So
and then afterwards, I was like,
From a technical standpoint, at least this one worked out better than the Twitter Spaces they tried to do the day before with Elon and that guy from Florida, Florida man that's running from Texas, running for president. That one did not go well. This one, at least technically, went well. But the news that came out of this was wow. Ford is done a deal with Tesla starting in early 2024. Existing Ford vehicles will have access to the Tesla Supercharger network, and they're going to build in the capability right into the FordPass app. So right now, for Superchargers that have the Magic Dock on there that we've talked about that you tried out, Robbie, you have to use the Tesla app, to get it go. When you plug in the vehicle and to kick it off.
You have to tell it to do Super Dock. Yeah,
and so they're going to build that capability right into the FordPass app, into the Mach-E and the E-Transit and the F-150 Lightning starting early next year. And presumably that will be available as an OTA update on those vehicles for the existing ones. And they'll also have the dock adapter available, the Tesla adapter available for those vehicles.
So you don't have to use a Super Dock because there's only like 5 of them in the country.
Yeah.
You just have to have, if you have the adapter with you, just plug it in and then put it in. Okay.
So it plugs into the CCS port on the car, and then you plug in the Tesla connector into that. Starting in late 2024, early 25, when Ford starts launching their next generation of EVs, their 3-row SUVs, they based Explorer sized, as we don't know what they're going to call them yet, but let's call them Ford Explorer EV and Lincoln Aviator EV. When those launch in early 25, they won't have a CCS connector on them anymore.
Well, wait, hold on. Here's the whole thing. They don't know. Emma Berg from Ford replied to a bunch of Twitter questions and said, "We're not 100% sure." They're sort of like exploring whether or not they'll have 2 ports on the car.
Well, Martin Ginsburg said that they will have the NACS, the Tesla connector, on there.
So they don't know if they're going to have 1 port or 2 port. They don't really know.
Okay.
And every journalist I've talked to who's talked to him has all gotten a different answer.
Okay.
So on Twitter, she's like, "Well, we're investigating having both ports."
So at the very least, there's going to be at least a Tesla connector on there.
At least 1 or possibly more.
There's at least one. It'll be the Tesla connector and possibly CCS.
Yeah, and presumably they will put that Tesla connector somewhere near the left rear corner, like it is on Teslas, so that you can pull up to a supercharger or back into a supercharger and have the cable reach the port. Unlike trying to do it today with an F-150 or a Mach-E, where with a Magic Dock where the cable's just not long enough.
Yeah, you essentially take up like 3 spaces to charge your F-150, which I'm sure Tesla people will be super happy about.
Oh yeah. Ford. I think this is interesting. I think Ford probably didn't want to do this. But, with the lack of success they seem to be having with getting Electrify America and EVgo and everybody else to improve on their reliability with their chargers, they probably looked at this and said, you know what, we just got to give our customers the best possible user experience with charging.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is just put compatibility with superchargers right into the vehicles.
Just use the one that works. And that's the crazy thing is that the killer app for Tesla, and I've been saying this for forever at this point, is the charging network. That is the killer app. And people say, well, I need to drive across country. What should I use? I'm like, well, Model 3. You should it's going to be you're going to have the easiest time going across country in a Model 3 because you're not going to have to worry about it. The car's going to tell you where you have to go. It's going to tell you how to charge. You're not going to use like 12 apps. You're not going to get there. You're not going to be concerned that you're going to get there at 11 o'clock at night and everything's broken. And so when you look at, on one hand, you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe they're going with this other. It would be nice if Tesla would just went to CCS, but when you're Ford and you're you're probably getting a ton of feedback from your people who have bought Mach-E's and F-150 Lightnings, and they're telling you, you know what, I really like my car, but when I go on a road trip, it's a big, huge pain in my ass to like charge, because like there's only like 4 chargers at a place and 3 of them are broken, or it's not charging fast enough. And meanwhile, all these Tesla people are just like, woo.
And Ford, to their credit, has been doing a lot of stuff to try to monitor the charging experience on vehicles when people plug in their Mach-E's and Lightnings. If the charging session doesn't start correctly, or it charges slowly, or whatever it might be, they're tracking that. And when they detect that there's a problem with a charger, they are pulling those chargers out of the FordPass system. That got when you drive one of those vehicles, you can have it navigate you to a charger, or when you put in a destination, it'll say, okay, well, where do I need to charge, and it'll show the places where there's charging available, and they are actively pulling out the chargers that they know have not been functioning, and they're sharing data with the charge point operators, but it hasn't really helped so far. And so this is going to potentially be the best of all worlds for Ford EV buyers going forward.
Yeah, it's that when I took that BMW up to wherever, up near Tahoe, on the way to Tahoe to charge it, I was like halfway expecting to get there, and it kind of didn't work, So I charged beforehand, because I was like, well, just in case, let me get enough charge so I can make sure I get there, and if it doesn't work, I have enough charge to get back down to this charger. And I got there, and it was just like, other than the fact that I didn't have a credit card on file with Tesla, it wasn't working with Apple Pay for whatever reason. It's just like, once I set that up, it was just like, and it just worked. And I was like, because you're just like, I needed to charge. I needed to do the super, the super dock or whatever. And it just like click, and I'm like, and I just plugged it in, and then I walked in the car, and it just like started charging. I'm like, this is why you buy a Model 3. This is literally why you buy a Model 3. You don't buy a Model 3 because it's better than the Mach-E. You don't buy it because it's better than the Ioniq 5. You buy it because I want to go somewhere, and I don't want to worry about it. I want to drive a car like an EV, like I drive a gas car.
Yeah.
And Tesla has been like, yeah, we made a charging network. And somebody at the office, when I talked to the engineer years ago, they're like, someone here was like, wouldn't it be great if like along the way we could tell you like where to stop? And so like we just did that. Like someone had an idea and they just did it, and then it changed everything. And somehow other automakers are just now starting to catch up with it, and mostly through Android, through Android Automotive. And so yeah, it's like on one hand you're like, I don't like the idea that we're essentially like putting lightning ports in cars, like Apple with its, I would love if there was USB-C. We have this proprietary cable, but on the other hand, people just want to go where they want to go, and they won't want to like fight with a sort of janky network that we have now, which I completely understand.
Yep.
All right, last thing we've got before we get to a few more listener questions is the new BMW 5 Series. BMW revealed the new 5 Series this past week, and as you might have guessed, it will be available as an i5 with battery electric, as well as a plug-in hybrid and mild hybrids as a standard setup. And one of the cool, well, maybe cool features remains to be seen that they're adding on there is support for Airconsole, which is a streaming video game service for casual games. So it's not quite like NVIDIA's GeForce Now or Microsoft's Xbox cloud gaming, but you'll be able to you can pair your phone with the screen in the car while you're waiting for it to charge, and use your phone as a controller and play video games on the screen in the car. What do you think about the new 5 Series?
I like it. I think it doesn't have the giant kidney grill. I think they're sort of paring down on it.
Picture isn't loading for me. I'm like, what I want to see if it has that giant grill. And for some reason, the pictures are not loading for me. I'm like, come on, that's the biggest question. It
has a smaller grill.
Yeah, it's looks like it's fairly similar in size to the current Gen 5 Series.
Oh, I got one. Okay.
Yeah.
I finally, oh my gosh, it's not giant beaver teeth. Yay.
Yeah, no, it looks nice. It's clean. It's not like crazy. The EV, I mean, I'm really excited to drive the EV. I mean, I like the i5. I think the i5, the regular 5 Series is going to be nice, but just from history, the EV is going to be better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, right now, they've announced two versions of the i5, the eDrive 40, which is the same 335 horsepower rear motor that's in the i4 eDrive 40 with 295 miles of range, and then the M60 with 590 horsepower. So this would be the same pair of motors that you find in the i7 M60, 0 to 60 in 3.7, 256 miles of range. They bumped up the charging speed to 205 kilowatts now.
I drove the i7 and it told me there was like 190 something. I was getting 205 in that car.
Okay.
For charging. I don't know.
It may be that they have done an OTA update that enables a little faster, because I know 190 was what they specified when it launched.
Yeah.
They may have upgraded those.
I have video of it hitting 205. I'm like, all right, well, this is good.
Yeah.
It was at an EA charger too, so maybe things aren't so bad.
It looks like it's similar size, maybe slightly larger. I haven't looked at all the detailed specs. I don't know if they've published all those yet to the current 5 Series, but the 5 Series is a really nice midsize luxury sedan. I'm really looking forward to driving this. And then of course, there's also the gas versions, with the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder and the 3-liter turbo inline 6. The i5 eDrive 40 starts at 68,000, including delivery, and the M60 at 84. The base 530i starts at 58,000. So I think this might be kind of the sweet spot for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not as big as the i7, but similar performance. And I think this could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a $6,600 differential between the 530i xDrive and the i5 eDrive. So,
yeah,
and so if you're just rear-wheel drive, it's going to be, so it's going to be nice.
Yeah,
I think we've talked about the i4 as a rear-wheel drive. We're like, dude, just get that.
Yeah, I mean, as nice as the dual motor all-wheel drive i4 M50 is, if I was buying one, I would actually go with the rear drive.
Yeah.
The better range and everything. I like it. One interesting detail. It's got a lot of the same ADAS stuff that's on the 7 Series, because it's based on the same platform architecture as the 7 Series. So it's got the new hands-free driving assist that's on the 7 Series on the i7, but they've added a new capability in here. So on the 7 Series, when you're using the hands-free system, if the sensors detect that the lane adjacent to you is open and you can do a lane change, it'll flash up on the instrument cluster, lane change available and suggested, and you just tap on the turn signal stock and it'll go and it'll execute the lane change. And actually the i4 does the same thing. But even though it doesn't have hands free, but it'll do the lane changes. On the new 5, using the driver monitor system, it's actually watching your eyes, and instead of having to tap the turn signal when you're using the hands-free system, all you have to do is glance over at the side mirror, and if you look over at the side mirror, it takes that as a acknowledgement that okay, go ahead and do the active lane change, and it will do the lane change. So it's the first vehicle I've seen that has that kind of capability, using your eyes to activate auto lane change.
Your eyes.
Eyes. Okay.
I will be in Germany in a few weeks to talk to them, so I'm gonna really ask them a lot of questions because I glance a lot. To all my mirrors, I'm always looking because that's how I was taught to drive. So I'm wondering is it 2 seconds? Is it 3 seconds? What's the difference between a glance to make sure there's no one over there and a glance to change lanes? So it'll be
Right? How does it know the difference?
It has to be timing based, I guess. Or maybe you have to kind of like scowl a little, like.
Well, I mean,
maybe it's also checking your eyebrows. So if your eyebrows are kind of like lift your left eyebrow, and then it'll get in the left lane. Lift your right eyebrow.
Sideways, it's just glance. If you lift up, then I feel like I could screw this up. Like, I'm not changing lanes.
Well, I know.
With on the 7 and then the I4, it's looking at okay, what is your set speed for the adaptive cruise control? Let's say it's 70. You got it set at 70, and the car in front of you is going 65. So it wants to it's going to suggest an overtake. The sensors are going to look at the left lane, and if it's all clear, then it'll say lane change available. And today, on those vehicles, if you wanted to actually do the lane change, you have to tap the turn signal stock. So it, now if it says lane change available, if you look over at the mirror presumably for some period of time, it will then execute the change. If you're just, if you're just glancing at the mirror and it hasn't suggested a lane change, it's not going to do anything. So it's not going to change lanes every time you look at the mirror. Only when it has suggested a lane change and then you look at the mirror. Again, the timing is going to be interesting. I'll be curious to see what they tell you, Robbie, about details about how this is going to work.
Yeah, I got lots of questions, and the Germans will love telling me all the answers to that in a very technical way.
Yeah.
And I get all excited. I love going to Germany because there's like, okay, let me tell you about the engineers. Like, Bill, come here. Well, not Bill, Hans or whatever. Klaus, get over here. We got a question.
All right. Speaking of questions, let's answer a couple more listener questions. This one came from Sean in Australia. He sent us a question via email. Even though I'm in Australia and some of the models you review and discuss never make it to our market, I love listening to the podcast and have for years now. Yay. I was wondering if I could ask the team's opinion as we are looking to replace our 2008 Nissan Elgrand people mover / not a minivan. Although we do refer to it as the van. We have 4 kids, twin girls, 9, and 2 boys, 7 and 5. So we do fill a car. Fortunately, they are still small, and neither my wife or I are Robbie's size, so our kids are not likely to become tall anytime soon. We like the Kia Carnival and the Kia Sorento. My wife has always liked the SUV shape, but the space in the van is always a winner. And certainly with 4 kids, I can see where it would be. The advantage of the Sorento plug-in hybrid is the government tax benefit for me with a hybrid under a novated lease. I'm not sure what that means, but anyway, so much so that even with a $20,000 increase in price for the Sorento GT line to the PHEV, I will pay less a month for the PHEV compared to the Carnival. The lease deal makes the PHEV very attractive, but my only concern is how the 1.6-liter hybrid engine compared to those V6 3.5-liter GT line. And I think the Carnival is the same V6 petrol engine. I'd love to hear the team's thoughts on these 3 options: the Carnival GT line, the Sorento GT line, and the Sorento PHEV. I'm particularly interested in your opinions on how they drive and handle. Keep up the great work. Many thanks in advance, Sean.
Okay, aside from like Sorento, which powertrain? With 4 kids, I would lean really heavily still towards that Carnival.
There is a facelift coming that's supposed to have a PHEV.
For the Carnival?
Yeah.
I feel like because it's here's the thing.
Or a hybrid. I don't know PHEV. Hold on. I think it's just a hybrid. Because
I know that you can make like the Sorento will absolutely do the job, but 4 kids, that means you're always having at least 4 kids. And then Tommy's along for the ride because you're giving him a ride from soccer practice. And now you have 5. That extra bit of space, I like the Carnival.
And the Sorento, has a 3rd row. Yeah. But it's nowhere near as voluminous as the 3rd row in the Carnival.
And if you're using it, like it's the thing is, I always think of the 3rd row in an SUV is very much like every now and then, if you have to, kind of, sort of, there's a 3rd row. None of them are really, most of them are not really truly huge. The Sorrentos isn't gigantic. So I kind of feel like I would really lean towards minivan with 4 kids. That's just where I am. I would be like, no, 3 kids, maybe 3, but 4 kids. Minivan.
Yeah. I would definitely, take the kids to the dealership and have the two 9-year-olds sit in that third row.
Yeah.
And see if they can sit in there comfortably. Because, the thing is, at this age, 9 years, even though the two of you may not be particularly tall, they are soon probably within the lifespan of what, given that you're currently driving a 2008 El Grand, presumably you're planning to keep whatever you buy for, a significant length of time. And that's good. We definitely encourage that. But, they're getting to the age where in the next couple of years, they're going to start hitting growth spurts.
Mm-hmm.
And, if the 9-year-olds can't be comfortable in that third row today, they're probably in sometime during the period that you own this vehicle, none of them are going to be comfortable back there.
Like, I know you're looking at powertrain, but just purely from versatility, like Sam said, they're going to be squished back there. It's going to get tricky. As all the kids get older, it's going to get tricky.
And you're also going to have less cargo room back there. So, if you're taking trips to visit the grandparents or, whatever, or just going to the beach, taking them to the beach, you're going to have a bunch of stuff back there, that you take for a day at the beach or, for a vacation trip. And you're not going to have as much cargo space behind that. In fact, you're going to have very little cargo space behind that third row in the Sorrento, especially compared to the Carnival. So, I would definitely consider the Carnival, especially if they have, I don't know what your timing is for buying a vehicle.
Yeah, if you can wait till like next year.
Yeah.
I know the U.S., there's a good chance in the U.S. we'll have a hybrid Carnival next year, early next year. They'll go in production like this fall. So I'm not sure how that'll work with Australia.
And the Carnival's built in Korea. It's not built here. So
yeah, it's like right down the street.
Yeah, so it's not going to be
compared to us.
Yeah, I mean it's not going to be a North America only model likely. So if there's a hybrid Carnival, then that's going to be something that's probably going to be global. Yeah. And certainly the hybrid, and the other part of the question, is whether the 1.6 turbo, with the plug-in hybrid is a good solution for that size of vehicle. I think it is. It's got plenty of torque, and when you pair it with the electric motor, it's got plenty of performance. I don't think performance is going to be an issue for you with the 1.6 turbo and the plug-in hybrid. But if they do a plug-in hybrid version of the Carnival, I mean that would be your ideal combination, I think.
Yeah, I'm seeing just hybrid, but if it's a plug-in hybrid, it's like
yeah.
I'm just looking to see what else is. Yeah, the next size up, would be like the Palisade and Telluride, which neither of those is available as a hybrid today, and I don't know when or if they will be. There is the Kia EV9 coming. I don't know if that's going to be offered in Australia. And if that, kind of fits your needs, that is another option to consider as well. Is, the EV9 is a step up in size from the Sorrento, and will definitely have a more usable third row seat for those kids.
I'm reading something that says that it is going to be due. Wait a minute, that it is going to be coming into Australia. I'm trying to get
the EV9.
Yeah, I'm trying to look.
Well, there's also the Hyundai Ioniq 7, which, one of those will probably, either the Ioniq 7 or the EV9, will probably be offered in Australia.
This is an Avi website, and it says it's due to be launched in the third quarter of 2023, July to September. So it should be coming out.
Oh, cool.
So,
all right.
So yeah, theoretically, yes.
So, start off by, taking the kids, making the two 9-year-olds sit in the third row of the Sorrento. And, that may cross it off your list just by default. Cause they're not going to get any shorter, the kids. So
you just keep growing.
Yeah. Tell me about it. All right. Next up, Kenny in Rhode Island wrote in, says, hey, Wheel Bearings Cast. Enjoy the podcast very much. It's pretty much a go-to weekly show. I started following you guys after hearing you on the Tech Guy a couple years ago. The podcast you all have put together is informative and entertaining. My wife and I recently started to look into leasing a hybrid vehicle. Shocker, there is a limited inventory, and those they do have seem to be marked up quite significantly. And here's where the confusion comes in. Do you know why the leasing terms are significantly higher, even though the price of a gas model and hybrid and are not that different? It also seems as though the manufacturers don't want you to get an EV or hybrid. Second question, if we go with a PHEV and lease that, can we still get the tax credit? Where can we find clear details on this information? At this time, we're looking at the Kia Sorento or Hyundai Tucson hybrid or plug-in hybrid. Stock is very low, if there's any at all. We're told we could put a deposit on a vehicle, but they have no idea when the vehicles are going to arrive. What a mess. Any thoughts on these vehicles? I mentioned as others we priced are way out of our price range, and I thought that this credit would help but it does not seem to be the case. When will the vehicles being made? When will these vehicles begin being made in the U.S. so that more people can take advantage of the tax credit? Sorry for the long-winded email, Kenny in Rhode Island. So let's start off with the first part about the lease terms on the hybrid plug-in hybrids versus the gas models. Any thoughts there?
If there's less of them and the people want them, they're going to charge more. That's the dealer. They get to do whatever they want. That's what it comes down to. My cousin, they want an HRV. The people are like, we're going to charge you like this $2,000 or $3,000 like extra just because. And I was like, no, that's crazy. It's an HRV. They're all over the place. Nope, they don't care.
Yeah,
they still just did whatever they wanted. And I test e-bikes as well, and one of the routes takes me by where they drop off all the cars. So there's a bunch of Subarus and a big parking lot full of HRVs. Didn't help my cousin.
So yeah, the supply situation is getting better. Inventories are starting to creep up. So in the coming months, hopefully we'll start to see, some of these markups subside. And, the thing is, if people are looking for a hybrid or plug-in hybrid of any of these models, dealers, if the supplies have been limited, the monthly payment on the lease, is based on, combination of the residual value and, whatever the sales price of the vehicle would be. So, if a dealer tacks on a markup up front, that is what gets factored into that monthly payment. So if they're tacking on $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 on top of the MSRP, then you're going to end up with a higher monthly payment, even though comparing the sticker prices, the MSRP, they're going to be not that much different. That's why you're probably seeing higher lease prices. What I would suggest is maybe shop around some different dealers. See if you can find a dealer that is not charging markups, because it's not universal. Not every dealer is doing that.
Markups.org.
Yes, that's right. We talked about them before. So check there and see if you can find a dealer that is willing to sell a sticker, and then you can get a better deal. The next part about getting the tax credit on a PHEV, again, it depends, but in general, yes, you can. The tax credit gets passed through on the lease, and I think Kia has said that their policy, and I think the same is true for Hyundai, that they are passing through the tax credits, if you lease one of these vehicles. Because right now, because none of the plugins are assembled in North America. The gas versions of many of these are assembled in North America, but the plug-ins are still being imported from Korea. But if you lease it, there's a good chance that you can get the tax credit on there. So again, I would shop around. It's not really published anywhere. So because a lease is legally considered as a commercial vehicle sale, because the vehicle is technically being sold to the financing company, whoever the financing company is, and then leased to the end customer. for commercial vehicles, they don't have the North American production requirement on there. And so, on most leased vehicles, you can get that. So again, shop around different dealers and see what they'll give you. And then, this again on the inventory, the situation's getting better. And so we should start to see more of these. And, Hyundai Motor Group, is along with, the Japanese manufacturers are moving aggressively to shift more of their production of these vehicles to North America in order to make them eligible for the tax credits. So, that's not something that's going to happen imminently, but over the next couple of years, it'll definitely happen. So it's probably not going to help you right now, but by 2025, we should start to see more of these vehicles be eligible for tax credits. Let's see. I think that answers everything they had.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of supply and demand, and the dealers are going to well, if we can make extra money, we're going to make extra money.
Yep. That is unfortunately the way it works. I mean, when supply exceeds demand, that's when we've been able to negotiate on prices, haggle on the price, and get a discount or get rebates and things like that. And it works the other way around as well. When supply is low, then they want to take more from you. So that is unfortunately one of the downsides of a capitalist system. So, all right, last one from Sean Whitehurst. This one, hello. What was the best Japanese wagon? The Lexus IS 300 Sport Cross, Acura TSX Sport Wagon, Mazda 6, something else? Thanks, Sean. And he signed it off with 2011 maroon TSX wagon, which is presumably what he drives. So what do either of you have a preference in terms of Japanese wagons?
The best wagon is the 2002 WRX Sport Wagon, because I owned one and I absolutely love that car.
That was so oddly specific.
It's the Bug Eye WRX Subaru Sport Wagon is the best wagon. You can't get a WRX wagon anymore. The last one was 2004, the 2004 model. Mm-hmm. And then they went away.
They don't do a hatchback anymore, do they?
For the WRX? No.
I think it's sedan only now, isn't it?
Sedan only. Yep. So that's kind of a bummer. But yeah, 2002 Bug Eye. It's got a fun look. It's fun to drive. I think making it a wagon only added 100 pounds to the car. It has that really short second gear and that really weird driving a WRX, you have to drive it for a month before you get it. And then once you get it, you're like, oh yeah, this is it. But it's not an easy car that you just can't. Most people just can't jump in and just oh okay, I'm driving it. It is you have to work for the power of a WRX to reveal itself. And I absolutely love it, and I miss that car so much.
Wow.
So that's the best Japanese sport wagon or bad Japanese wagon.
I don't know that because I just sort of be picking one sort of. I like the Mazda 6. When he said Mazda 6, I'm I kind of like that one, but I have no great passionate haha, like Robbie did. So I feel like I just have to defer to Robbie's. Can't beat that for all those reasons.
I would say the last generation Mazda 6 wagon, which was never offered in North America. It was sold in Europe and I think in Japan. It was never offered here. I was a big fan of the most recent generation of the Mazda 6, and they did have a wagon version overseas. And in about 20 years or so, you should be able to get one here. You should be able to import one. But that the prior generation Mazda 6 wagon was a fantastic looking car. I also like that one a lot. But I think I would have to go with the TSX Sport Wagon. Those were mostly only bought by automotive journalists, and or their spouses. I know in a previous job I worked with Marcia Pund, who is Dan Pund's wife. Dan is now at Road and Track. He was at Car and Driver for many years, and she drove a black TSX wagon, and that was a fantastic car. And I liked that generation of the TSX. I liked it a lot. And I thought the wagon was great. The only downside of that TSX wagon is they did not offer it with a manual transmission. It was automatic only. But aside from that, I think that was a fantastic car. So it'd either be that or the Mazda 6.
I've never driven one, but I've always liked the Accord wagon.
Yeah, I mean,
like all of them. Every Accord wagon had like a cool little, and the last generation of the wagon just looked like the Accord, and then just like a thing was thrown on the back.
Yeah, it's been more than 20 years since they did an Accord wagon. I think.
Yeah,
like early 2000s, maybe might even be 90s. The last time they did an Accord wagon. But yeah, I mean that TSX, is essentially the TSX was the European market Accord.
Yeah.
Because Acura is a North America only brand. And, what they did was they brought in the rest of the world, we had the Accord that was the last several generations of Accord sold in North America were a different car from the Accord that they sold everywhere else. It was bigger, heavier. And the TSX was the European market Accord. And the wagon was the wagon version of that. So that is actually the most recent version of an Accord wagon that is available. So I would vote for that one, I think. And if you can get one of those, and if you could maybe get the parts from a European Accord wagon, and put a manual transmission in there.
Yeah, you can get the Accord. You could get the Accord wagon with the manual transmission. So
yeah,
I like the front end of the Accord better than the TSX. That's my big thing.
Yeah, it's well, you could also get the front fascia, the European Accord fascia, and put that on. So take off the fascia, the TSX fascia, and put the European Accord fascia on there.
I'm going to tell you that 90s Hondas are so easy to work on, like swapping engines, swapping transmissions. It's of a 90. So if you get either of those and you can just Frankenstein it and be totally fine. To be honest, you're like, oh, I don't like this manual. I don't like this automatic transmission.
Powertrain in there.
You know what? You can just find a manual transmission in the junkyard or from a shop or whatever. No, you can. It's real easy to just sort of swap things out in 90s Hondas. It's bonkers how easy it was to work on those cars. And I also miss my 90 Honda Civic hatchback.
Well, we're still very happy with our 2017 Civic hatchback.
Nice.
It's still doing great. So, all right, that's it for this week. One thing I forgot to mention: the show is now available on YouTube. We're publishing it, and I've published like the last 6 months worth of shows, going back to last fall, or actually back to about last September, to YouTube. So if you go to YouTube /@WheelBearingsCast, you can find the show. So if you like to listen to your audio podcasts in YouTube, whatever works for you.
Yeah, YouTube music.
So. There's no video there. It's just a still image that shows up. But if you like to listen to it in YouTube, you can listen to the shows in the YouTube app now, and they're there. And I may go back and keep backfilling the older episodes in there. They only let me publish like 4 a day because of rate limits on the YouTube API. But going forward, all the new ones will be published. As they come out, they will also be available on YouTube, in addition to all the other places where you listen to podcasts, including Pocket Casts and Apple Podcasts and Overcast and Spotify and Amazon Podcasts and whatever else you use to listen to the shows. So, that's it for this week. And we will talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone.
It'll be 301. I don't know what that means.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.